Why is it that when a woman is cheated on, the world immediately gathers around her to offer deep comfort, but when a man experiences the exact same betrayal, his very first instinct is to hide his face in complete secrecy? In the study of human relationship psychology, there is a very heavy, unspoken behavioral trend regarding how men process betrayal. When a man discovers that his spouse or partner has been unfaithful, his mind does not just process the heartbreak of a broken promise. Instead, his subconscious mind is immediately hit by a deep, crushing wave of internal shame. Society has taught men for generations that their primary role is to protect, provide, and maintain control over their household. Because of this social pressure, behavioral data suggests that a man often views his partner's choice to cheat as a direct reflection of his own failure as a male. He begins to ask himself if he was not strong enough, successful enough, or masculine enough to keep her interest. This internal embarrassment causes many men to suffer in absolute silence, refusing to talk to friends, family, or professionals because they fear being judged as weak. Understanding these psychological dynamics is not about favoring one gender or making excuses for poor choices. It is about exploring the true emotional triggers that shape human behavior so you can navigate a crisis with absolute clarity, keep your logic sharp, and preserve your self-respect when your world is turned upside down. Today, we are going to look closely at the hidden reality of male shame after an act of infidelity. We will analyze why men feel forced to carry this burden alone, how this internal pressure alters their daily behavior, and why trying to hide the truth from the outside world can lead to a dangerous breakdown of a man's mental strength. Most people see what happened. Few stop to understand why it happened. If you're here to think deeper, question assumptions, and see beyond the surface, you're in the right place. Subscribe and join the conversation, because better understanding leads to better decisions. To truly understand the shame a man experiences after being betrayed, we must first look at a psychological pattern known as the protection identity. From a very young age, a man's self-worth is tightly connected to his ability to secure his perimeter, which means keeping his home, his family, and his relationships safe from outside threats. When an act of infidelity occurs, this entire identity is shattered in a single moment. The man does not just look at his partner's bad behavior. Instead, his brain internalizes the event. He begins to believe that an outside male crossed into his territory because he lacked the power or value to keep that territory secure. Behavioral observations suggest that this thought process causes a man to feel an intense amount of exposure. He feels as though his private life has been put on display for the world to laugh at. This behavioral tendency often causes men to become hyper-focused on keeping the betrayal a complete secret, pretending everything is perfectly normal in public while their internal world is burning to the ground. The second major behavioral trend to study within this dynamic is called the leadership trap. In many relationships and marriages, a man is expected to show emotional stability and lead the path forward. When a partner chooses to step outside the relationship, the man often experiences a psychological trigger that tells him he has completely lost his authority. He begins to worry about what his male friends, his coworkers, or his children will think of him if the truth is revealed. Psychological trends show that this fear of losing respect is often much more painful than the actual end of the romance. A man's subconscious mind whispers that if people find out he was cheated on, they will view him as a passive individual who can be easily manipulated or stepped on. This intense pressure can cause a man to react in one of two extreme ways. He will either develop a pattern of explosive, unproductive anger to try and prove his strength, or he will fall into a state of total isolation, cutting off communication with the people who care about him the most. Let us look at a realistic story involving a man named Ethan and his wife, Clara, to see how these dangerous emotional patterns operate in real life. Ethan was a dedicated high school teacher who was widely respected in his small community for his hard-working nature and his calm personality. He had been married to Clara for 6 years. Ethan worked extra hours during the school week to provide a comfortable life, believing that his dedication was the ultimate sign of a good husband. However, Clara possessed a behavioral pattern of requiring constant excitement and public admiration, things that Ethan's quiet life did not always offer. Clara began a secret relationship with a man from her local gym. When Ethan eventually discovered the hidden messages on her laptop, His immediate reaction was not to confront her loudly or seek wise advice from his closest friends. Instead, a massive wall of shame dropped over his mind. He felt deeply embarrassed that his wife had preferred someone else over him. To protect his public reputation and his ego, Ethan made the classic mistake of trying to manage the entire crisis completely alone in the dark. He sat Clara down and agreed to hide the event from everyone, completely dropping his own boundaries just to keep her from leaving and making the story public. This passivity led to a very negative outcome. Because Ethan was acting out of pure fear and embarrassment rather than logical strength, Clara did not respect his choice. She viewed his secrecy as a sign of weakness and eventually returned to her unfaithful habits. By the time the truth finally came out through a mutual acquaintance, Ethan's self-esteem had been completely destroyed. His friendships had suffered from his months of isolation, and the marriage collapsed in a highly public, humiliating way anyway. Ethan failed because he allowed the internal fear of social judgment to guide his relationship decisions, choosing to protect a broken situation out of shame instead of standing firmly on his dignity from day one. Have you ever seen a situation where a man stayed in an unhealthy or disrespectful relationship simply because he was too embarrassed to let the world know what had happened to him? I invite you to reflect on this difficult human dynamic and share your perspective in the comment section below. When we break down Ethan's experience from a psychological viewpoint, we find a third critical trend known as the internalization cycle. When a person experiences a trauma like infidelity, they must release the emotional energy in a healthy, logical way to heal their mind. But because a man's shame tells him that talking about his pain makes him look less masculine, he keeps that energy locked deep inside his own body. Behavioral science indicates that this locked-up stress eventually transforms into deep bitterness and self-doubt. The man stops trusting his own judgment entirely. He looks at his business decisions, his friendships, and his everyday interactions through a lens of failure, constantly wondering how he missed the warning signs at home. High-value individuals recognize this psychological danger early. They understand that a partner's choice to violate a commitment is a reflection of that partner's lack of character and personal discipline, not a measure of the man's true worth. By refusing to internalize the bad behavior of an outside individual, a grounded man can look at the situation with cold, analytical logic, allowing him to make the right decisions for his future without letting shame dictate his steps. When you understand that a partner's choice to step outside the relationship is a direct reflection of their own broken moral compass, you stop letting their bad actions dictate your self-worth. You realize that a man who respects his own life must view betrayal not as a personal failure, but as clear data that reveals a person's true character. Now, we must analyze the remaining psychological trends that explain how this internal shame functions over the long term and how you can use absolute logic to smash this mental trap and rebuild your life with unshakable strength. We will look at how the subconscious mind handles the pressure of public perception, why a man must shift his focus from the past to his future mission, and how holding an iron boundary transforms your personal value. The fourth major behavioral trend inside this emotional dynamic is a pattern known as the social ghost effect. In relationship psychology, we notice a very consistent behavior when a man allows internal shame to completely run his mind. Because he is terrified that his peers will look at him differently or judge his masculinity, he begins to quietly withdraw from his social obligations. He stops attending weekend gatherings, drops out of community sports, and avoids deep conversations with his closest male friends. Behavioral observations suggest that this withdrawal is a subconscious defense tool. The man believes that by removing himself from his social circle, he can protect himself from the imaginary judgment and whispers of the world. However, this isolation only makes the internal shame much heavier, trapping the man inside an endless loop of overthinking where he replays the betrayal over and over, completely draining his masculine drive and personal power. If you're still locked in, you're seeing what most people miss. This channel is for thinkers, not reactors. Subscribe if that resonates. Share your perspective below. Now, let's get into the part most people overlook. The fifth and final behavioral trend to analyze is the false recovery sprint. When a man is struggling with the hidden embarrassment of infidelity, he will frequently try to cure his broken self-esteem by jumping immediately into a new activity with a high level of frantic energy. He might download multiple dating apps the very next day, buy an expensive car he cannot afford, or start posting highly exaggerated photos on social media to prove to the world that he is doing perfectly fine. Psychological trends show that this sudden burst of activity is an unstable overcompensation. The man is trying to use outside things and quick validation from strangers to drown out the quiet voice of shame inside his head. A truly grounded individual understands that real recovery does not come from putting on a fake show for the public. It comes from a quiet commitment to your personal discipline, a complete acceptance of reality, and a total willingness to sit with the facts until your logical mind is completely clear. Let us look at a realistic story of positive transformation involving a man named Julian to see how a person can manage this deep emotional crisis with absolute dignity and unshakable logic. Julian was a successful civil engineer who discovered that his partner of 5 years, Megan, had been maintaining a secret relationship with a coworker. The moment the truth came out, Julian felt the immediate, natural wave of male shame wash over his mind. He felt smaller, he felt exposed, and his first instinct was to hide the entire situation from the world. However, Julian possessed a high level of psychological awareness. Instead of falling into the isolation trap or trying to patch up a broken situation out of fear, Julian utilized the rule of the immediate exposure to truth. He did not scream or play the role of a victim. He calmly packed Megan's things, placed them by the door, and ended the relationship within 20 minutes. The very next day, Julian met with his 2 closest, most disciplined friends and told them the exact facts of the situation without any emotional filter. By speaking the truth out loud to high-value men who respected him, Julian took the weapon of secrecy away from his shame. He realized that Megan's actions were a result of her own low discipline, not a reflection of his value as a man. Julian then redirected 100% of his daily focus into his engineering firm and his physical health, lifting heavy weights at the gym and pushing himself to learn new professional skills. Megan looked at Julian's total detachment, his refusal to hide in embarrassment, and his complete focus on his own life path, and she experienced a massive shock. She realized that Julian was an unshakable man who would never chase her or beg for an explanation. She tried to return and apologize multiple times, but Julian held his iron boundary and kept his door closed permanently. By refusing to let shame run his decisions, Julian transformed a dark betrayal into a launchpad for his personal success, expanding his business and earning a deeper level of respect from his community than ever before. How do you feel about the idea that speaking the truth to a few trusted men is the fastest way to kill the shame of betrayal? Think about how true brotherhood helps a man rebuild his life and share your perspective below. When you develop the mental strength to see that another person's lack of loyalty can never diminish your value as a man, the heavy weight of shame completely disappears from your life. You no longer feel the need to hide from your peers, defend your reputation, or make excuses for someone who did not have the character to stand by your side. Your only responsibility on this earth is to keep your logic sharp, maintain absolute command over your choices, and continue building a life of purpose, discipline, and high standards. When you stand firmly on your boundaries and refuse to let the actions of others disturb your internal peace, you show the world that your dignity is not something that can be taken away by a cheap betrayal. You ensure that your future remains entirely in your own hands, built on a foundation of true honor, absolute clarity, and unshakable self-respect. If you're still here, you've already done something most people don't. You didn't settle for the headline. You stayed for the deeper layer. In a world that rewards quick reactions, taking the time to understand is becoming a rare skill. That's what this channel is about. Not taking sides, not chasing outrage, but looking beneath the surface to understand the patterns that shape people, relationships, and decisions. If you value conversations that make you think long after the video ends, subscribe and stay connected. And if something in today's discussion stood out to you, share it in the comments. Some of the best insights come from seeing how different people interpret the same idea. Keep questioning, keep learning, keep seeing beyond the obvious. I'll see you in the next one.